Good evening and welcome to Chlorine Callaloo. I am Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques of RWB Aquatic Academy. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube pages of Trinbago Freestyles and the Facebook pages of Move Lang, Cindy and Jane and the Center of Excellence Swimming Pool Complex. Remember to follow us, like the pages, and share the live. And now, our chlorine news flash. We are just over 9 days and one Chlorine Callaloo episode away from Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Are you feeling the excitement yet? Team Trinidad and Tobago have already started their journey to Tokyo, and we are looking forward to seeing Dylan Carter compete in the 100-meter freestyle and Cheryl Thompson in the 100 and in the 50-meter free. Best wishes to Cheryl and Dylan. As we mentioned last week in our news flash, FINA World Aquatics Day is celebrated every year during the first weekend of July, before July 19th. The date of the foundation of FINA in London, 1908, marking each year the anniversary of FINA. On Chlorine Callaloo last week, we did our own celebration by highlighting Special Olympics. In celebration of World Aquatics Day, the Amateur Swimming Association of Trinidad and Tobago today announced a virtual land training video competition, and clubs can win US $500. All interested clubs are asked to send in a video production of their athletes working out with enthusiasm and uniform, and you can win the TT equivalent of US $500. Clubs are asked to check their emails from ASAT for further information. In Chlorine Callaloo news, ChillaxCin is back this week, and for the month of July, we will be ChillVaxin. With the government of Trinidad and Tobago starting a mass COVID-19 vaccination soon, and the likelihood that we would return to the pool soon, we do hope to provide perspective and information to positively impact your decision to vaccinate. Today, we speak for Adrian Raymond of OYE Promotions, which has a section in the Lost Tribe Carnival. We talk Carnival, COVID, and communications. Today, we also combine our Coaches Connection and Lifebuoy segment to speak on the topic Coach Jacky and the Canadian swim experience. Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques was a long-standing Jamaican Olympic swim coach who is now the head coach at the University of Waterloo in Canada. She will be joined by one of her former athletes, Jonathan Ramkissoon, who is a former TNT national swimmer and a national record holder. Coming up next, we have our VisualEyes Chlorine Champion, Ann Poon Affat. She learned to swim as an adult and is here to share her experiences with the beautiful sport of swimming. Thank you for tuning in to Chlorine Callaloo, and remember to like and share this live. I am Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques, and stay tuned next. We have Jason Wickham hosting VisualEyes Chlorine Champions. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to Chlorine Champions right here on Chlorine Callaloo. This segment is sponsored by VisualEyes, and we invite you to check them out. And we'll talk a little bit more about VisualEyes as we go through this segment. Chlorine Champions is a segment where we feature anyone who can contribute positively to swimming, anyone who uses the swimming pool, whether it be for aqua aerobics, be it for recreational swimming, competitive athletes as well. They all have a space right here on Chlorine Champions. And today, our Chlorine Champion is Ms. Ann Poon Affat, as introduced by Jovan. Good evening, Carol.
Good evening, Jason. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. What you thought about Jovan and the news flash?
Very good. Potential reporter soon.
Potential reporter soon. So, Carol, so as we said before, Carol learned to swim as an adult. So, Carol, why didn't you learn to swim as a child?
Well, I actually went to the YMCA to do a crash course during the July-August vacation when I was young. And my certificate had that I could put my face in the water. That was it. I repeated the swimming program because a 2 weeks course. And again, I was able to put my face in the water, and that was it. So I was really happy school started, and that ended my torture.
Your torture?
Yes, because that's what I could do. Other tours were doing laps.
Right.
So that was it for my swimming career until I went to Las Cuevas and I got caught in a current. So somebody pulled me in, and I thought, it's probably a good idea to learn how to swim. And that's really where I started. Now, I realized, and I only realized as an adult, was that I cannot learn in a group class. The information, I couldn't pick it up fast enough. So getting a one-on-one coach made the biggest difference to me.
Right.
The other thing I realized for myself is that I started off doing one class a week, and I would forget it by the next week because, when you're older, things don't stick as easily. And I started doing 2 classes a week, and that made a difference. So, it took me a little while to figure it out, but I think I'm in a better place now when it comes to understanding how I live.
So I'm guessing your motivation to swim, because that was my next question. What was your motivation to learn to swim as an adult? And I'm guessing that experience in Las Cuevas is what was the main influence.
Well, that was really the main thing. But it was interesting that just probably a week or two before, I was in Maracas with a friend who came from the States. And she commented that nobody in Maracas was swimming. Everybody was standing up and talking. And I told her, well, the majority of us can't swim. I mean, we have fishermen who go out at sea who cannot swim. And we only find that out when there's a mishap. And she was horrified because at her university in the States, she could not get her degree if she did not know how to swim. She did not pass that swimming course. So she thought being an island, everybody knew to swim. And so that kind of started me thinking. And then, of course, the experience was enough to make me realize, listen, I have to do something about it because we really are surrounded by water.
So, watching as you go through your private classes, your swimming experience, what did you learn about the profession of swim coaching that you didn't know before learning to swim?
Well, I didn't realize how intuitive the coach had to be with the student, because I'm afraid of water, right? Especially after that little experience, one wave and I could no longer touch the ground and I just started to panic. So knowing that I had a fear, you can see that the coach had to break it down, try and build up my confidence. There were days that things just weren't working out, and understanding that he had to change his plan for that session. But slowly building up your confidence to a point where, yes, he was there. Yes, I knew what to do. But as he said, it's all in your mind. He had to sort of remove some of the mental blocks, some of the challenges, and some of it was physical because remember, it's coordination of your body that normally you may not have done before because now you're in water. And a lot of it, I think, is that bond between the coach and yourself so that you trust, even though he wants you to swim in the deep end with nobody around and I can't touch. I trusted him because when he first started, he was in the next lane and he let me see his toes. When I up. And then when I came back, the toes were a little further away. And the third time, there were no toes. But, you know, it realized that he's close, but I don't really need him. And I think that is what coaches do. They look at the student, they see their weaknesses, they build them up so that their strengths have to be part of the learning curve. And then they let you appreciate that, listen, you can do this by yourself.
You seem like you had a good coach.
Excellent.
So normally we just ask her 5 questions, 5 random questions, but I mean, I didn't say it before, but actually Carol is actually an optometrist at VisualEyes. So since we have VisualEyes here and they have kindly sponsored this segment for the last few weeks, let's get some VisualEyes questions then. So in layman's terms, I want to know this. What's the difference between an optometrist, an optician, and an ophthalmologist?
Okay, so an ophthalmologist is a medical doctor who then specializes in eye diseases.
Right.
An optician is the one that will take the measurements when you're going to get your glasses, make sure the prescription is what the optometrist prescribed.
Right.
Optometrists are really primary care providers. So if you have a headache, you would not, the first person you go to will not be the neurologist.
Right.
Because it's something simple. And that's what primary care providers do. We are sort of like detectives. You come to us, we look and see, is it something simple? And 90% of the times it's nothing to worry about. It could be solved with maybe glasses. Sometimes it might be eye exercises. Sometimes it might be eating habits.
Right.
There are times, of course, when it might be more serious than that. And this is when we refer you to the ophthalmologist. But we tend to send you with a lot of information. So as you walk into the office, they already have other tests that you would have done. So they can start already diagnosing what may be the problem.
And so when should somebody go ahead and test their eyes? When should they take that step?
Well,
not like me when they start to see fuzzy.
Well, it really should be annual eye exams. So we can test children from 2 years, 2.5 years, because children now know their alphabet from very early. My son was 2.5 when we tested his eyes. And it should be annual because things change. And a lot of problems might be just visual hygiene. And all that means is, you know, you have really bad habits and we can help the patient do things better and kind of alleviate a lot of problems that they may be having. And sometimes it's not even glasses that they need. It may be other things that they don't know that there's a better way.
And one more on VisualEyes. Why VisualEyes and not anybody else?
Well, we do things a lot different from a lot of other places. For one, we will not sell you glasses just because we want to sell you glasses. So that's why we'll go through the detective work to find out, is it something else that you need? We do, apart from eye exams and contact lenses, we do vision therapy. I think we're the only one in Trinidad that does vision therapy. And that really is for people whose eyes don't work together. Sometimes the vision in one eye hasn't developed. We help develop that. We help people with stroke. Sometimes the balance is gone, their vision is messed up, and we're able to get them functional again. Now, one of the things we do is, especially for our adults that come in, is that we want to know, are you possibly diabetic? How is your blood pressure? How is your cholesterol? Because even though they may not necessarily be eye related, they are health related, and we really do care about you and your eyes. And we would prefer, you know, you find out your problems early and treat it if there's an issue or if things are starting to change on you.
So unfortunately, we out of time, so winding up with my last question to you. So the VisualEyes continues to sponsor this segment, and I want you to give that adult out there, that Carol out there, at the point in time, that final encouragement to, to learn to swim.
Right. So I actually tell adults and mothers that swimming is very good, especially mothers who had children by C-section, because their shoulders don't develop when you do C-section. But as an adult, a lot of people have high cholesterol, and sports allow you to bring up your good cholesterol. But it also teaches you something, and learning is very important, especially as we get to be adults, we stop learning. And having that ability to be outdoors and not inside the room also is good for the health and well-being. So there are only positive things I could say about swimming.
All right, so thank you very much. This was Ann Poon Affat in our VisualEyes Chlorine Champions segment. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And remember to check out VisualEyes at Curep, Trinity, and Chaguanas. The numbers are on the screen. And thank you very much, VisualEyes, for continuing to support us.
Thank you, Jason. All the best.
All right. So that was the VisualEyes Chlorine Champions. I stole some of Cindy's time. I see she's stretching in the background. She feels I'm not seeing her. But we're going to get ready to chillax. And I think she ChillVaxin too. I don't know what that is about. But we're going into ChillaxCin.
Hi and welcome everyone to ChillaxCin. Oh gosh, who missed me last week? Everyone. I know. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome. You know what to do. You come in, you sit, you relax, well, you chillax with me, Cindy Ann. So I am your host, Cindy Ann Boasso. And tonight joining me is he's the co-leader of OYE Promotions section in Lost Tribe. He's a communications and marketing professional, and he's a volunteer at the COVID mass vaccination site. Tonight we're talking ChillVaxin. Jason said it, not me. So we're talking vaccine, who should get it, why you should get it, who already got it. And Adrian has a couple of things he wants to say to us. So grab something to drink, a cup of tea, your water with something in it. And let me welcome my guest tonight, Adrian Raymond. Why did I have a friend called Adrian Bernard? I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Hi, are you hearing me, Adrian?
Are you hearing me or am I muted? No, I'm good.
No, I'm hearing you.
Good. How are you?
I am fine. Welcome. Thank you for agreeing to join us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I love your T-shirt, vaccinated according to Fauci. I like that. AF
Yes,
according
yes,
to Fauci.
yes. Well,
like,
yeah, there's that.
That's exactly what it is. That's what it is. I love it.
Yeah.
Adrian, so tell me,
Mm-hmm.
you are the co-leader and specialist with Lost Tribe. Tell me what was the attitude in camp once you all realized Carnival 2021 was off?
Well, I think that for a lot of us, we were literally hoping against hope that something could occur. And I know that at one point in time, there was a discussion regarding having just a local only carnival because the borders were closed. And following that, we realized that that was not going to be possible. And obviously there was a certain level of disappointment. Obviously, you creatively, we had actually begun the process of developing for Carnival 2021, and you realized that it wasn't going to happen. But my section, we went ahead and we did present a costume, got it photographed. We called it Hope on the Horizon. At the time, case number loads were very, very, very low. and we knew that vaccines were coming. So for us, we felt there was hope on the horizon. And at the time, we didn't even know there was any other strain necessarily. You kind of in some distance about the Gamma strain or the P1 variant or the Brazilian variant, and there was no such thing as Delta. So
Right.
we were very, very, very confident. And the government had also announced the fact that they had once they got the vaccine, that they had a very seemingly well thought out vaccination plan. So, but you kind of pivot. We Lost Tribe did a film, Lifebuoy, that was very, very, very well received.
Yes, I saw it.
Designed us an opportunity to kind of explore a different side. Our band leader, our fearless band leader, Mickey Mirage, took on the role of producer, director, co-writer, etc. We were able to bring together a number of soca artists and present music in a way that I hadn't heard before, and really gave us chills, etc.
Yes.
It was a little bit abstract, but I think people really enjoyed conceptually how it looked, the idea of presenting Juve in a different way, the stick fighting in a different way.
Yeah.
We got positive feedback because of that. So that's how the band pivoted. We still did our costume and did a whole lovely photo shoot, etc. So, and a lot of our committee members actually were at the Savannah with a little beatbox, social distancing, but kind of at least paid homage to the Savannah. So it was, I thought it would have been, it was sad. I thought it would have been sadder, but it wasn't too bad. We kind of got
You made it work. You made it work. Yeah. Well, I mean, what will you do, right?
But we couldn't do anything. We had to stay home.
Exactly.
And let me just say this. I mean, there was always a lot of criticism of people in the mass fraternity, but I must say there was a level of responsibility. I mean, the industry has been decimated, but there was a level of responsibility, understanding that people are the reasons that Carnival, mass, and events happen. Correct. And if it is that we don't keep people safe, then we can't have events, we can't have mass, we can't have Carnival. So for us, the sacrifice now is much more, it's much more important than the good times, so that we can have those good times years to come, hopefully.
Okay. So I like that, because now we could kind of segue into discussing lockdown. Because I mean, Trinidad and Tobago, they have been on lockdown since March last year, right?
Well, we have been on restriction since March of last year. There was a lockdown from March until I think June of 2020. Then we kind of came back out. You had your different capacities in terms of public transportation. You may have some level of rotation in offices and stuff like that, but we were more or less living with COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the borders were still closed. I mean,
the borders were still closed, but
yeah.
But for us here in the cocoon, we were living with it. We were living with it. And then once the numbers went back up, I think on April the 19th, they confirmed the presence of I think it's the Gamma variant, the P1, or what was known as the Brazilian variant.
Yes.
Right? And then by the 23rd, they saw it in 4 other people, with no contact tracing. So the first one that they discovered it. And thereafter, we just saw the numbers begin to skyrocket. And we went back into lockdown, and this one was a little bit tougher because it was longer. It was more stringent.
So let me
SOE and a curfew.
Yeah, so let me just, because I want us to talk. We're not here to blame anyone or point fingers or anything. So I want us to discuss a bit about vaccination, because that's why we're here, right?
Right.
Because there are people who are going to take the vaccine. They are for it. They believe in the science, and they are for it. There are those people who, they're kind of on the fence. They're scared. They're not too sure what they should do. They're waiting to see, who's going to take it, who's not going to take it. Some of them for health reasons or whatever other concerns they may have. And then there are those who are not going to take it, regardless of what you say, what I say. They're just not interested in the vaccine. They may be anti-vaxxers, or they just don't want this particular vaccine.
Right.
I want us to focus more on the first 2 types of people. What do you say to people who have already gotten the vaccine? Because they have the vaccine.
Right.
I'm vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated.
Right. I'm vaccinated as well.
We still have a responsibility as well, regardless. Right. But what would you say to people who are fully vaccinated? And
I think that, and particularly for Trinbagonians, if you're fully vaccinated, I think that it is important that, it for many people, it reaches down in terms of it is preventative medicine. or preventative healthcare, and many times we don't necessarily speak about it. We tend to, it's one of those things you don't necessarily discuss. But in this case, I think that you have to normalize it. You have to do those social media posts, and you have to also tell of your experiences, and be very honest about telling about those experiences, because what people need to understand is that, like anyone who has doubts, like everybody goes into it with a certain level of intrepidation, because you have to get a needle in your arm. It's something that you have to do, etc. You have to register, you have to go line up, you have to this, you have to that. But the reality is that when it is that you tell of the experiences, and hats off to the professionals, the health professionals at the Ministry of Health, and hats off to all the doctors, the nurses, everyone who kind of comes out to make sure that vaccinations can happen. It's important that you post. It's important that you normalize it. It's important that you speak to the sense of relief that you feel. It's important that you tell your vaccination story. And the reason why I like to use the term story is because the moment you say story, Trinbagonians and anybody in the world, they lean forward, because
they love that. The word story, yes.
Exactly, we macocious. And then when it is that you also explain, I took my vaccination because, and you list your reasons, that brings a certain level of relatability to anyone listening to your story. When it is that you also speak about the fact that, and everybody's experiences have been, for 90%, 95% of the time, have been great. I did not feel the needle. The wait was not particularly long. Even while I was waiting, you're outside with Trinidadians, you're talking, you don't know who you're talking to because they're already master, but Trinidad,
exactly, yeah.
And you go upstairs and you observe you for a little while for the first one, less time for the second one, and it's very, 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 very seamless. And so that for me, I think that it is especially important that you're able to share that with whoever, in whatever forum, whether it is that you're a good writer, so you do it on social media, whether it's a Instagram story, whether it's a post. Try to, as well, if you haven't gone, you're going for your second shot, dress up nice, because for me, I felt it was a very important day, because it meant, because I think in history we're going to be talking about BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID. And this is really your after COVID story. And share that with everybody that will listen to you, because people are curious, because that is the key to getting with that second group who is not too sure. If you know of a co-worker, a relative, a friend who has gotten the vaccine, you feel more confident to go and do it. So that true story at work, we sent, when we had our first adopters, as I like to call them, and they went to work and they went back to their various departments, their colleagues then felt a little bit more confident about doing it. And apart from which, also as well, if it is that you've been vaccinated and you went with your family, went with your sister, you went with your granny. So for example, my mom, who's in her 70s, and my grandmother, who's 97, both got their vaccines, right? And they're showing off on me because they had literally no side effects. I mean, I had like a little lethargic, slight muscle pain, but I didn't really have much side effects, but they had absolutely no side effects at all. I think that helps as well. The fact that you have these older persons who went and all of us are fine.
So we kind of doing both, because you're having a conversation for both people, for those who are fully vaccinated, as well as you are kind of reaching the people who are scared too. Because what happens, I find, now we kind of overexposed to information. Way back when there was measles and yellow fever and we got the vaccine, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, access to all this information to just have us so, so overwhelmed with this, And so how do you talk to the people now? Because you're saying for those who've got the vaccine, we have, a certain kind of responsibility. What about those who are scared that if they get the vaccine, there's a chip in their arm? I mean, there's so much to read up on. And, and you don't want to tell people, look, really? Because it's legitimate fear and concerns that people have, and we don't want to dismiss it. So we want to reach them on a level where, we kind of like address their fears and also encourage them that, look, this is for all of us.
Well, the thing is that, again, it was back to a certain level of relatability. We've all heard those stories. We've all heard the stories about the chip in the arm. We've all heard the stories that in 2 years is this, that we don't know necessarily the long-term effects and so forth and that kind of thing. We would have all done our particular journey and done our own particular research to make a determination as to why we would have taken the vaccine. What is important as well is that you share that information that you have. And if it is that you don't necessarily know the information in terms of the concerns that they have, you can still go follow up on it, because generally it's very easy to find legitimate sources of information. The key difference here with anybody that you're dealing with, particularly if it is that you're able to have those face-to-face or phone call conversations, is that they know you. There's a level of trust that exists. They can feel, and you have to allow people to feel vulnerable, because many times people have a certain level of shame in terms of saying that they're scared of the vaccine. I know grown men who their fear is the fear of the needle.
And that's I am scared of the needle too. I mean, they had to give me a lollipop and stuff. I'm not embarrassed.
Right. The thing is that it's something that people are generally petrified about. And people hear all sorts of information. You don't necessarily know what to believe, because the truth of the matter is that none of us have ever dealt with a situation like this before. This virus that came and basically just shut down the entire world as we know it. And it's gotten to a point where we've been in it for so long that it feels very normal for a lot of people now. So the idea that this little tuchuk in your arm could be the end of that is sometimes something that's so mind-blowing to them, because we've been there's so much anxiety, so much suppression, so much worry, so much concern that has been going on. And you telling me that this vaccine that it developed in a year, because I find it developed it fast, not realizing that it's been technology that has been around, or medical technology that's been around for a very, very long time, for at least 30 years. And in the case of some vaccines, even since the 70s. And the thing is as well, is that analogies are also important. So I always tell people, so one of the things I get is that I find the vaccine take real short to develop. And I'm like, yeah, because literally they built it's like building a house. They had the foundation, they had the walls, they had the piping. They just needed to know how to run the wiring. That's literally all they needed to do.
Mind you, these are the same people who rush to buy iPhone 12, 14, 15 when it comes out within a very short period of time too, right?
And I think too, we have to acknowledge the fact that people think that there's a risk, and people have acknowledged that there's a risk, but the risk is so minute, so minute. As I've told people, I ask people, have you ever drunk an energy drink? And they will be like, yeah. I said, have you ever drunk an energy drink with alcohol? What are you talking about? I was like, no, we have a whole song. I'm drinking, not calling the brand name, and so, and we've drunk rum and not calling the brand name.
But to be fair to them, remember, it gives them wings. So far, COVID has not been proven to give anybody, to put anybody in flight. You know what I mean?
My point is this, but coming with that are risks of the same blood clots, increased heart rate, possible cardiac arrest, etc. When it is that they're talking about it's there to control you, and they will know what's going on. Hello, this thing we have here, they're tracking your movements. I have a conversation and I say, oh, shoes. And all of a sudden on my feed, a bunch of advertisements come up for shoes. And if it is you want to talk about is to control you, how many of us, I'm going to ask you to look and observe Trinidad and Tobago this Monday morning coming. What are we going to do? You talk about control, you talk about addiction, you talk about whatever. Everybody's going to be lined up outside every fast food joint. People are like listing off the things. And the thing is, food is very much an addiction for a lot of people, particularly fast food. And my point is that when they said that certain establishments were closing down, I saw people lined up around the corner in the middle of the night, because at that point in time there was no curfew.
Right. I don't want us to lose focus, because we don't have much time. I want people to get the important message that we're here to give tonight. So you are saying, for those who are scared, because you work at the vaccination camp or site.
Well, I volunteered at the mass vaccination site. Yeah.
Okay. And I want you to speak directly, just in one sentence, to people who are scared. Just tell them whether it's yourself, that they can contact you if they feel like they need more information. If there's a hotline number, if there are, just to give them that level of comfort. What do you think we can say to them?
I think in every group and in every family, we all know that one person that has all that information. We all know that one person that has that legitimate source of information. Most people don't know me from Adam, okay? So they don't have a history with me, etc. But there's that person in the family. And I'm pretty certain by now every family generally has one person, one friend, one neighbor, your priest, somebody who has taken the vaccine, your pastor, your imam, whoever has taken the vaccine, somebody that you trust.
Your doubles vendor. People
exactly.
love the doubles vendor.
There's somebody that you trust who has had the vaccine. Go and have a conversation with them. Beyond that as well, the Ministry of Health puts out information all the time. There is an inordinate amount of information that is there. Beyond that as well, you can also try to get in contact with your own doctor, your own medical professional, and ask them what they know about the particular vaccine, etc., and just try to get as much information as possible. But the one thing that I'm going to say to everyone is this, and I want you all to hear me very, very, very well. Vaccines are safe. Vaccines are necessary to protect you. And you can tell them this, the majority of people that are right now dying from COVID-19 in populations where some are vaccinated and some are unvaccinated are unvaccinated persons.
Correct.
And apart from which, if it is that we want back, the only way we're going to get back the life that we want, the only way the economy is going to rebound, the only way that we're going to be able to get ourselves out of this darkness that we're in is for everybody to get to that 900,000 people being vaccinated. If not, we're never really going to fully open up. If not, we're never fully going to survive. We're not going to survive. Because life cannot continue the way it has been going. People are dealing with depression, anxiety. It has taken a toll on people economically. It has taken a toll on your children's education, and their ability to socialize, etc. And we're always living with this constant fear, to the point where I can't even do anything
I was just about to ask you.
And I couldn't even, I felt, even though I'm fully vaccinated, in 2 weeks out, you're still scared to hug her. And you're doing it, you still haven't gotten. And I need to get back to that.
We need to. Tell me a bit, you touched on it just briefly a couple of seconds ago. You personally, how have you managed your mental health with everything that's been happening? How is Adrian?
The thing is that I'm one of those people that is extremely, I don't want to use the word paranoid. I'm just extremely cautious. I'm just extremely cautious. I struggle with anxiety. I've had anxiety attacks and so forth. But one of the things that I have so for me, it's just been constant. I wear double masks now because of the Brazilian variant, and possibly if Delta ever gets here. I sanitize all the time. I maintain my social distance. But what I also do is that I read a lot of books. I exercise. I also find that humor really and truly helps a lot. So
well then check me out.
Well, exactly.
Check me out.
Please do it very well. We share memes. We share cute videos. I think all of those things tend to help. Yeah. And I think that is kind of how I've kind of managed to keep myself sane. You know what I mean? I can't get to the barber, but I will try a little something to make myself.
You're looking good. It working.
And that's what's important.
What do you think Carnival 2022 will look like, Adrian?
Well, okay, so this is the thing. Based on everything that I am reading and suggesting, the government has a target to get to the 900,000 persons maybe by November. I think that's a very ambitious target. I can't see us getting to 900,000 until maybe December, possibly even January. So I don't see Carnival 2022 happening in February. However, if we could do a 1972 and postpone it, not till May, because I think Carnival has become a little bit too intrusive. It's gotten too big.
Right.
And you have SEA, you have CAPE, you have CSEC, etc. And that's a lot. You don't want to necessarily be distracting the teens and the kids during that particular period of time. If we can do it at the end of June, maybe July, when those exams are out of the way. And what is good is that, yes, we'll have a week leading into Carnival, but because there also isn't Lent, we could also have a week after Carnival. So if you're like me, where you don't drink and you don't eat because you want to look good in the costume, it means the week after, when you all inclusive, you could eat out and drink out your money, literally. I can. So for me, it's something I would push to maybe see if we can do Carnival in July, because the sector needs it. The sector needs it. I mean, think of it. You play Mass Monday and Tuesday. You go to a couple of fets. But it wouldn't be Ash Wednesday. It'll be whatever day afterwards. And then by the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, before you leave, maybe you leave and people leave to go back home, you go to a couple of band launches because they don't see any costumes for 2023 one time. So I think that's in my mind how it will work for those 2 weeks. I think it will work. So Hopefully, but again, people that is dependent on you all going out and getting vaccinated, encouraging your co-workers, encouraging your family to go get, I mean, literally, listen, getting vaccinated is very Trinbagonian. It is literally a jab. Jab
there you
one, jab
go.
two is a jab.
There you go.
Literally.
I love that ending because we have to wrap it up. That was perfect. Maybe that's what we should do at the vaccination site. Have the Blue Devils playing some pan and get them fired up for it. And there you go. So, Adrian, tell people how they can follow you on social media. I want to thank you, first of all, for joining us. This was very good. I hope we reached a few people. I hope people hear what you have to say and they take it in. And tell them where they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you.
The two that I have public is Facebook. I'm Adrian Raymond on Facebook. And on Instagram, where I'm really open and very public, is OYE is Adrian. I have my best content is on Instagram, to be honest, and it's OYE _is _Adrian. Easy to find.
Easy to find. So thank you again. And to everyone
much.
who joined us tonight, thank you. I am Cindy Ann, your host. You can follow me on Instagram as well, Cindy Ann Boisseau. And thanks for chillaxing with us. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Stay safe and remember to stay 6 feet apart. Bye.
Good evening, and this is the segment we call the Lifebuoy, saving aquatics one guest at a time. And this evening, we are pleased to have a trailblazer. I didn't say it, I haven't seen it here on her resume, but she is a trailblazer in Caribbean swimming. She was a Jamaican national coach for the 2000, 2008, 2012 Olympics, and she's also the head coach at the University of Waterloo. Miss Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. How are you this evening?
I am good, thank you. This was so good.
What? Sorry?
What went before me was so good. I really enjoyed listening to that.
The vaccination segment. So you have your views on the vaccination as well?
Very strong. I'm double vaccinated. Actually, it's 3 weeks ago. I had my second one. And, you know, I guess one of my things has been, I know too many people from Jamaica who unfortunately passed due to COVID. So to me, it's very real. And, you know, with my swimmers coming in, I'm just encouraging everybody because, as was said earlier, the only way to go forward is if we're all vaccinated.
Right. So, as we mentioned before, this is Jackie Beckford-Henriques. I got that right? I know I asked for the pronunciation, but I still...
You did a good job.
Right. So she, as I said before, she's the head coach of the University of Waterloo. And University of Waterloo is in Canada. Jackie, let me start by asking, how was the transition from Jamaica to Canada for you? As it not even coaching.
You know, it was a little bit difficult at the start. And of course, the weather, everybody talks about the weather, and I understand why now. As one friend said, you have one weather type and then just a slight variation in the summer. But in my first 3 years here, I had to drive an hour to work. So in the winter, that was really a little bit scary when it was very snowy. Coaching, I moved from age group coaching to university coaching, but I had a really good mentor in my first job with my head coach, because I was an assistant coach at McMaster University. So he really helped me with my transition to life here.
So moving across, so you're at the University of Waterloo now, head coach, the swim coach for both men and women, correct?
Yes, for both men and women.
All right. How was the transition from coaching age group swimming in Jamaica mostly, and then dealing with the adults in Canada?
You know, I've enjoyed it. Maybe I was old enough now and had coached enough. It's very different. It's very challenging but enjoyable, because at the university level, your swimmers will challenge you. You know, they ask you questions, much more so than the age group level, where they're just willing to absorb what you say. And I have enjoyed that, because, you know, when a swimmer asks me something, it makes me stop and think. I'm not scared to say I don't know, but it makes me go back and do the research. So I find it makes me really be on what I call my A game all the time. I can't just say we're doing this because I said we're doing it. You know, I have to give the reason.
Did Jonathan Ramkissoon used to give you opposition all the time?
No, not all the time.
But some of the times at least.
He's probably listening now, so I have to be nice.
No, don't say what you have to say. Say what you have to say right now.
But what I just said is that he was one of the ones who always challenged me to think. Well, not even think.
And to grow as a coach.
Research.
Yes, I understand that.
I have to tell you what I liked about him. When he got into work, he really worked and motivated those around him.
I believe the motivating the ones around him, you know. I'm not sure what the working part.
No man. When he gets serious, he really works.
Nice. Jonathan Ramkissoon, good evening and welcome to Trinidad and Tobago.
Hello, glad to be here. It's been a couple of years.
Right, so this is Jonathan Ramkissoon. He's what are you now? Alumni? What are you in transition? What are you right now?
Alumni. 3 years in transition.
3 years. And what you did, so Jonathan Ramkissoon, if you didn't know, was a national record holder in, I believe, 50-yard 100 breast as well. Right? And he a former national swimmer as well. And he went from, of course, going to school, Hillview College, then he went across to his World Juniors, and then straight to Canada to the University of Waterloo. Let me ask you a question. A lot of people decide to go to the States as opposed to Canada. Why did you choose Canada? And probably, why did you choose Waterloo?
Yeah, I didn't really choose Canada. I chose Waterloo. It just happened to be in Canada.
All right.
But I liked math in high school in Hillview. I was like the only thing I liked. So I just heard through the grapevine, Waterloo good at math. So I was like, well, that's where I had in. And they took Cape grade, so it made it a lot easier to transition from Hillview to Waterloo.
All right.
So it was really just kind of incremental decisions.
So you didn't have to go and do any SATs and things like that?
No, not forcefully. No.
How was the experience going to school in Canada? And we're coming back to Jacky just now, but I ain't see Jonathan in a long while too.
Yeah, long. Okay, well, I mean, the school was good. They had some issues, as Jacky mentioned earlier, with the weather, where it just seemed to be cold all the time, and then for a couple of weeks in the summer it'll be real hot.
Right.
But the actual school, I mean, it was challenging. The work was challenging. It was even more challenging to balance school and swimming. The good thing about swimming, though, is in Canada, they swim short course meters. So I didn't really have to do all the translation between short course meters and short course yards, because they swim short course yards in the States. So that was enjoyable for me. I mean, overall, the experience was pretty enjoyable. Very, very challenging, but rewarding.
So, Jacky, what as I say, I mean, we know that most people look to go to the NCAAs. Canada probably is not the first choice of many Caribbean persons. Why should a Caribbean person consider Canada as an option? If not for education, but even the swimming, if they want to pursue the career in swimming, why should they consider Canada as an option?
Canada swimming has developed tremendously in the last few years, and the competition at the collegiate level has got better. I also think for the Caribbean athletes, and John is a prime example of it, you can be successful. John medaled in our conference championships. He was a finalist, and before I coached at Waterloo, I thought he was going to be a medalist at nationals. Anyway, he was very close to it. I think you came fourth, John, am I right?
Yeah, fourth a couple times, yeah.
Right. So to me, that is a great motivating factor. You might go to the States and maybe you win at your conference, but your chances, apart from a few, your chances of medaling at NCAAs is very, small. So, of course, along with the good education you get in Canada, plus I find if you want to keep on swimming internationally, in the US at the university level, they tend to tie you into events. So if you go there, you might only end up swimming 2 events. Whereas in Canada, we swim, actually at our championship meets, you're allowed to swim 4 individual events plus 2 relays. And also, I know during the year, our dual meets don't carry the same load that they do in the States. So you can swim far more events.
Johnny, did you enjoy swimming far more events?
Far more. 200 breasts is far more than 50.
Well, I know, but so you still stopped the breaststroke, or you did?
There was nothing else. There was nothing else for me. There was breaststroke, maybe a 25 free, 100 IM.
Okay,
that's
right,
it. Yeah.
Jackie, you could have done.
I did expand. I expand my horizons, though, I must say. So I end up being pretty decent, relatively, in 50 free. But that was about it. I don't be on a relay, not individual or anything.
So if you're now joining us, this is the Lifebuoy, and we have Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques of University of Waterloo. She's the head coach there, and we have Jonathan Ramkisoon. I'll rechristen your boy. So long. Ramkisoon, a former student. Jonathan, when you coming home, boy?
But I mean, I thought it would be a lot. I thought I would have been away for a lot shorter than I actually was. So right. I don't know. I keep saying next year, and then one thing happening, the next thing happening. So I don't know. So,
Jonathan, what would you encourage Trinidad and Tobago athletes to take the route to Canada, as opposed to the US, or anywhere?
I think it depends. It mostly depends on a person. A lot of my friends, when I was growing up, thankfully for me, I grew up with a lot of people, a lot of swimmers who were a lot better than I was. Dylan Carter, for example, Joshua Romani, and those guys they could basically fit in NCAA. I mean, Dylan had like he still has like a very good swimming. So NCAA is like much more appropriate for him, right, than Canadian swimming. For myself, NCAA would not be appropriate at all, right? Like I'll go, I don't know, man. I'll be like 50th, 60th, and like some small random meet, But Canadian swimming, it, as Jackie mentioned, it like almost gives you hope. Like it gives you a little bit more confidence that like, you could use swimming to supplement other aspects of your life, right? Like you could use practice in the morning to get up, get your day started, get some exercise without having like pressure of competing against thousands of other athletes in NCAA. And then in addition to that, the Canadian schooling system is very, very good for the top schools. I find in the US, I mean, I didn't go to the US, so like I don't, you know, this is like sort of my opinion. But the US is littered with schools. You know, so you could end up in a situation where you go to a school, you go to a university because there's a decent swim program.
Mm-hmm.
And in 4 years, you're done swimming because you were never that good. And you can't get a real job. You know, you can't get a job, the best job for you, because it doesn't work like that. You know, there's a lot of schools, none of them come to my mind. Even if they did, I would not name any. But there are a lot of schools that just the academics are not on par with the athletics. And it's I think like for the most part they seem really good up until you're about to graduate. Then it's like, oh my goodness, what did I do for the last 4 or 5 years?
But Jacky, I mean, Jonathan is sounding like, you know, the Canadian experience is a great one, but finance is a prohibitive factor for somebody who is in the Caribbean. I mean, how, I guess they just will have to consider Canada in their planning. It's not that we want, the scholarship system is different in Canada as opposed to the US. So is that person just have to plan their life better? Is it, what would you suggest?
Start looking at it from early. Look at all the possible scholarships you can get. We can only give in Ontario 4,500, which I do know is not a lot. That's regulated across all sports in Ontario. But, you know, one of the things that there's lots of things coming on. There's a program hopefully will start this year, and I'm sure it will by next year, for athletes of color, where they can get an additional 2,500. So that's 6,500 that you could get. There's also academic scholarships that seem like not much, but if you add them up, you know, you can get yourself there. One of the pluses of the Canadian system is that pretty much when you're finished and you graduate, you are guaranteed a 3-year work permit. After a year of that, you can apply for permanent residency and then put yourself on the path to becoming a Canadian citizen. So, which I know is much easier than what the US offers. Also at the University of Waterloo, we have our co-op program where at some points in your university career, you go to school for a term and you work for a term. So you're working a regular job. Yes, you could call it as an apprentice if you want to call it that, but you know, and you're earning in that time, which can help you towards your expenses in the next term. So, you know, I wouldn't just say, oh, I can't do it. There's always ways. And, you know, I don't know about now in Trinidad, but years ago, there were government scholarships. Jamaica has government scholarships as well. And there's lots of relations between our Canadian government and Caribbean governments where there's scholarships being given. I had a swimmer who got a scholarship to somewhere in Nova Scotia where they were given to a Jamaican and who applied for engineering. So do your research. That's what I would say to you. All
right. So Jonathan, I doubt that this is the end of the visit for you. What final? It's Jacky laughing in the background. What words of encouragement you want to leave with Trinidad and Tobago swimming?
Jesus Christ.
That's a good place to start. Starting with Jesus Christ is always a good place, especially when dealing with aquatics.
Yeah, I mean, just like keep working every day. At swimming, at school, at everything you do, just keep at it every day, and you never know where it'll take you.
And I'll ask you a question before, and I'm going to ask you on the air now. What was the difference in the training pre-Jacky and post-Jacky?
Oh, no.
I think Jacky said I used to ask a lot of questions.
Right.
Maybe that should,
So
that
your
should
question,
kind of summarize that there was a big difference.
there's a big difference. So
Yeah.
your question was, but a big positive difference because hey, you might make a talk back. I don't know.
No, it was a big positive difference. I mean, Jacky, like, a lot of things contributed to it, but Jacky turned the team around. You could see the results from the team, like pre-Jacky and post-Jacky.
Post-Jacky.
Or like current Jacky, yeah.
No.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, she did and continued to do an amazing job with the team.
Go Warriors.
And
Yeah,
that's why
Warriors.
John is going to be back on the deck, helping me to continue.
My gosh, they're really going to do that to the team?
Yeah, I don't know. We might, I don't know. You never know.
Now, but Jonathan continue to fly the red, white, and black. And I know you're in good hands under Coach Jacky, and maybe one day you could come and teach us a thing or two.
I'm hoping, but the borders closed.
No, the borders
closed.
The borders opening on the 17th of July.
Well, I might see you on the 18th.
All right, good. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, thanks. See you, Jacky. See you, Jason.
So that was Jonathan Ramkisoon. He was one of Jacky's charges while he was at the University of Waterloo. Jacky, watching here, and you in 2000, you started in Canada at the McMaster University. That was in 2014 as an associate coach. So that's the first time you started coaching in Canada, right? And you stayed there till 2017 until you went to be the head coach of the University of Waterloo, right? And in between, you're still the head coach there. And in 2019, after being in Canada for a period of 5 years, you were the Ontario University, it's a men's coach of the year. Well, I guess coach of the men's teams.
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to do that?
I didn't think about doing that. Going to the University of Waterloo, I arrived there, and I guess this is part of my history of owning my own club in Jamaica for 25 years. I believe that you have to create the right culture,
right,
in order to be successful. You have to have everybody working in the right direction, all your swimmers plus your staff. So that was one of my first jobs in my mind. And I also came with an international perspective that, this team is not at the level I want it to be at. I had a lot of exposure to US university swimming.
Right.
Coming to Canada, had no idea of Canada. So just basically I set about to do that. And one of the big things is team. And I think that was one of the big differences the year I got that particular award. Our men's team moved up to second in our conference, and it was by creating a team environment. Everybody's performance was important, and everybody supported each other.
Mm. So the team effort brought that on. So if you're now joining us, as I said, this is the Lifebuoy. This is Jacqueline Beckford-Henriques, and you're watching Chlorine Callaloo right here. We're talking about Coach Jacky and the Canadian swim experience. So, sometimes people will speak about, okay, you are a woman, right? And people will say that, you would have challenges, you would have obstacles. What was your experience? Was that an advantage to you? Was it a disadvantage for you? I know in Canada too, I mean, you're a woman of color as well. How were you able to navigate some of these things that some people may perceive as disadvantages in sometimes a male-dominated field?
I grew up in the Caribbean, and our women are strong women. Think about the fact that women lead many of our households.
Right.
So I have never doubted my own ability to do, and I've never thought at the time that something happens to me that maybe it didn't go the way I wanted because I am a woman.
Right.
I'm very fortunate. the president of the Jamaican Swimming Association, when I did much of my work as national coach, was a gentleman called John Eyre, who totally supported what I was doing and had vision for swimming as well. I went to McMaster University, new environment. My boss at the time, Andrew Cole, hired me because I was a woman. And it was funny because at the start, somebody said to him, boy, you ticked off all the boxes, woman and color.
Right.
But I knew that my job and all the girls on the team appreciated having a woman there. So I guess that sort of started me off. There's much more, I will say, of a boys' club in Canada. And, you know, I'm now working with Swim Ontario on a women's committee, trying to get the word out to women that you can do this. Because, for example, in Canada, there are more age group coaches, women, than men,
Right.
under 13 age group. But then it dramatically changes after that. And this is something that we're working on here, empowering women, letting women know they can do it. And after all my years of experience, you know, I mentor actually about 3 women at this point in time.
Mm. And I mean, you mentioned Jamaica. I mean, being in charge, is it that you were when you say you were the national coach, were you one of the coaches, or you were the coach in charge, you were the technical director at the time?
I was head national coach for, I can't remember how many years. Then they decided to have a technical director. So that was another head, but you ran a whole program as well, being technical director. So I was that for a number of years, until I stopped coaching in Jamaica. So I think it spanned over about from 1990 something to 2012.
Mm. And coaching in Jamaica, what is the major difference? Let's not say Jamaica, we'll talk Caribbean wide, right? What's the main difference between the Caribbean swim culture and the Canada swim culture?
You know, societies are different. Canada's society is much more structured than ours. Right. People fall in line. And, you know, you even talk about the vaccines. And I've watched how many people here have been vaccinated because people follow structure rules. Whereas we all know we're a lot more flamboyant. Let's be nice, flamboyant in the Caribbean. So in our swimming, what I have found, and this is more recent in Canada, there's a much more streamlined attempt to get swimmers to the top from Swimming Canada perspective. That's the governing body here. Mm-hmm. In the Caribbean, and I can speak more of Jamaica, but I do know quite a bit about Trinidad. We operate in our little compartments. Mm-hmm. We will have a one swimmer come through and another one swimmer come through. And we don't get together to operate, you know, I think we should get together as a Caribbean, quite honestly, and have camps and things like that. To, you know, throughout the Caribbean. But even in our own countries, we're constantly fighting among each other. So we don't develop our swimming. And I think that's something, if you look at Canadian swimming on the world map, you know, they've come a long way in, say, the last 10, 15 years, because there is some sort of
structure.
Right. And forward plan. How many of our swimmers in the Caribbean have a detailed 4-year plan? Not saying nobody does, but I don't think there's groups that operate like that.
So we need some more planning and some more structure.
I think that we have good coaches, and
I was not going to ask that. Next question. I was going to ask that actually, because you believe we have the coaching talent?
I believe we have coaching talent, but I think we have coaching talent in segments or in different parts. And coaches also need to take part their egos sometimes and be willing to listen to other coaches and to do. I'll give you an example. I had a swimmer qualify for Canadian Olympic trials. And he was having to drive an hour and a half every day to train with me in the month of May.
Right.
And of course, financially, that was a burden, plus just the toll on him, because the pools in his hometown weren't open. So his club coach, who he left a year ago, managed to find pool time. So his club coach and I sat down and came up with the plan. And he did so many days with his club coach and so many days with me for the last month. And it took both of us, you know, I had never coached with this guy before, but it took both of us knocking heads to come up with a plan.
So it can be done.
Yeah. And, you know, we've done it in the, you know, small scale in the past. Let's face it, when we go to the Olympics, when we go to Worlds, the Caribbean sits together as one. You know, and we cheer for each other as one. So maybe we should start working on that at the lower levels.
Do you think you spoke about the coaching, we have the coaching talent. So is it that we have the administrative issues? Is it that we need to realign how our associations are probably run?
Yes.
Short answer. Short answer.
I mean, I don't know about your constitution and things like that in Trinidad, but in Jamaica, I know the constitution has not been changed in 100 years.
Yep.
And we're still operating on a system where every single club has a representative sitting on the association.
Yep.
Which I think it might be like 25 clubs. How can you achieve anything? And then
it's similar here.
Okay. And then in a lot of cases, and no offense to parents, but many times it's a parent who only has their child's agenda. And so there's no long term.
So there's no long-term planning, because you spoke about no one having a 4-year plan, no long-term athlete development. How can we fix it? Because we like to get solutions out of this segment. Because speaking about Trinidad, it's difficult sometimes to even get these kind of discussions going. Sometimes you feel like the committee is just to choose a curved team or CCCAN teams and things like that. And to do planning to get athletes or get the best out of athletes, it's something that we push at the side.
I think we need to start drawing back in some of the swimmers that we've had in the past who have great swimming knowledge, and maybe start with an advisory sort of situation. Look, we have Zoom nowadays. You don't even have to be in the place. And, you know, all these other platforms. And you have, a think tank session. And then you start from there. What is most important to your country? Maybe you need to, and I know in Jamaica's case, revise your constitution and then look at who you're going to vote in.
We have the same 100-year discussion. But I mean, I would say sometime last year, a draft constitution was circulated, but it still remains a draft at this point in time.
And you know what you just said is the problem. Everything centers around selecting our teams for CARIFTA, CCCAN, And we don't think about, I mean, we have a program in Jamaica that unfortunately has gone downhill called Swim Jamaica. And we need to make our bases bigger.
Yes.
The more people who learn to swim, the more people are going to come through at the top.
And I think too, I think our messaging from our coaches as well. I mean, we have to talk more about learn to swim. It's like these kids coming into a competitive swim program from somewhere. You have no idea how they learn to swim. If when you take them over, if you're going to have to break them down from scratch. I mean, a learn to swim program is supposed to be incorporated some way in the whole competitive development of the athlete.
I mean, one of the things that I've observed here, for example, there's a club that works out of the University of Waterloo. And I see from their Learn to Swim program through to their senior program. And Jason, it is so good to see the development. For example, they do 5 minutes of dry land in their Learn to Swim program. Because it increases as they go up.
Right.
So by the time, if you watch their senior group working, they come on the deck, there's 20 minutes of dry land, coaches just set it up, but they have learned that from their Learn to Swim program.
Do you think we need to refocus? I mean, we spoke about already that, you know, we choosing for Carifta and ChillaxCin, etc. Should we, as a Caribbean, look at, because we have Carifta from 11 to 12, 13 to 14, straight up. Everybody have an option to make a national team. There's now also the Goodwill Swim Meet, which Jamaica is a part of as well. So everyone has, from 8 and under straight up, has an opportunity to make a national team. Do you think that is something we need to look at? Should age group swimming, should we be pushing this Carifta national team, ChillaxCin national team mentality, or should we be looking at something else?
I think it plays an important part. I'm not a fan of the 10 and under national swimming. I've never been to Goodwill, so I can't comment on how, you know, because to me, 10 and under swimming is all about fun.
Right.
Learning good technique and enjoying racing. So, and even 11, 12, I think should be like that. So I think it has a place because there's no meet like Carifta for Caribbean flair.
No, it isn't.
Every US coach that has ever come to Carifta leave like, oh my God, what a meet. So I think it really encourages team atmosphere. But my concern is that I know in Jamaica, we have swimmers who think, I just need to make Carifta. And we have to encourage those swimmers to look beyond that.
So, well, I'm guessing too, it will be, in order for the swimmers to look at that, there have to be a certain message coming from the coaches, and a national message actually, as in, okay, you know, you get into swimming, this is what we want to achieve. I mean, you could do like Jonathan. Jonathan decided, you know, the swimming is a pathway to education as well, right? You may decide you want to be a Olympian, and I think people just sometimes get into swimming and they don't know what. to just know they see some young athletes' name in the papers for Carifta and ChillaxCin, but it's not like there's a national direction, a national vision.
Yeah, and I agree. And there should be, it's a stepping stone. So you start at your Goodwill, if you want to call it that. You go to your Carifta, you go to your ChillaxCin. You know, there's so many swimmers who, Dawn Chuck, she's now Dawn King, just stopped coaching at Duke University. She did not make her first team for Jamaica until she was 15. And she went to 2 Olympics for Jamaica.
Right.
So, you know, the steps aren't always the same, but if the associations provided education on the different routes and, you know, where should you be going after ChillaxCin, Pan Am Juniors, you know, whatever the next thing is, I think that would really help.
So we're talking about something like what you did in Canada, a little culture change, well, a big culture change you would need within the Caribbean.
And also, I mean, what the Canadians have done is they have created pathways where taken just very quickly, they took an average of Olympic medalist times and looked back a number of years at what they were doing at much younger ages. And that helped to guide. So one of the things, for example, is 4 of the young men who have made the Canadian team for the first time, who are like 18, 19, they were on the track from they were, I think, 15, 16.
Mm-hmm. And you were able to see their progression straight up to the Olympics.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think they'll be winning medals this time, but I'm sure the thought is for 2024 that they would be up there.
I mean, definitely we have to sit down and do more work with, I mean, planning and getting more scientific with the sports. I mean, it can't just be, I mean, there was a time we didn't choose, I don't want Trinidad and Tobago, there was a time some years ago, we didn't even choose Carifta or Sisikan via times. It used to be first, second, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, we really have to start collating data and, you know, getting more scientific.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the constant changes. I am investing this year in a device called Triton, where swimmers are going to wear a device that literally tracks every metric they're doing in the water. And it's actually an alumni of my program who it's his company, but it's a worldwide used device now.
Actually, I know we have a few people here that use it.
Yeah, so he's come out with a new app that actually analyzes the metrics. So I'm quite excited for that. So after you've worn it for a month, you will get comparisons. So, you know, you have to keep on doing these things to improve your swimming.
I know we went to and through, but if you had to say 2 or 3 things that you would like change or improve in Caribbean swimming.
Well, I'd like to see the Caribbean come together more. I think resources could be shared more. And individually, I would like to see teams, certainly in Jamaica, individual teams working on growing within their own clubs. You want to hear what I don't want to see?
Go ahead.
Coaches going and coaching swimmers from other clubs privately.
Coaching?
Yeah. I don't know if it happens in Trinidad, but it certainly happens in Jamaica.
Well, I don't know if I plead the fifth because at the end of the day, pools are closed, so I'm hoping none of that going on right now.
Well, no, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about in, you know, pre-COVID.
Actually, we had last year when we were doing the show, we actually did a segment on it as well, coaching, because I think some people are not even educated to the practice. Some people do it deliberately, and some people are not even educated. So what they're doing is considered coaching. It's
so bad for the swimmer because there's no communication between the two coaches, and I could be telling the swimmer one thing and you tell the swimmer something else. Or one day I could say, okay, we're doing 5,000 butterfly, which I would never do. And you come the next day and say, okay, another 5,000 butterfly. Anyway, that's just my soapbox point.
So we're winding up the interview here now. This is Jackie Beckford-Henriques. Jackie, I know I just asked you about Caribbean swimming, but I'll give you any final words, any final message you want to send to us.
I think we are very talented. And when I used to be in Jamaica and coaches from abroad came and said it, I would be like, oh, they're just saying it. But now that I have worked elsewhere, I truly believe that we are very talented and our swimmers can go a long way. And
tell Trinidad and Tobago swimmers to please consider Waterloo as an option.
Of course they have to come. And, you know, they can go on the website, email me. I'm happy to help Caribbean swimming. If you don't come to Waterloo, I'll be sad. But I've had too many years in swimming. I had a son. He went through the university swimming. He swam at Worlds. He swam at Commonwealth. You know, just knowledge there to help you.
When last you been to Trinidad and Tobago?
Long time now. My friends have been nagging me. So maybe I'll bring my University of Waterloo team to Trinidad. I
think that is a good option, and let's see how we can make it happen. When the borders open, consider Trinidad and Tobago as an option.
I agree.
And you can bring Johnny too if you want, or you can just leave him.
No, if I was coming, I'd have to bring him.
You gotta bring him. Even if it's in the suitcase, you have to reach.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Coach Jackie. Thank you very much to not just for coming on the program, but for showing persons that, you know, I mean, Caribbean coaches can step outside of the Caribbean, and they can step out and they can make an impact. I mean, all the things about, I mean, color, sex, or whatever, that could be an issue if you make it an issue, right? And I mean, I really feel that you have given a lot to Caribbean swimming and a lot to Jamaica swimming, and you still continue to by helping Caribbean athletes, I guess, when you come in contact with them in Canada as well. And thanks for keeping Johnny safe as well. I know he needed your extra eye.
Well, I'll just, you know, I'll see him in the next term, so we'll keep him in order.
We'll keep him in order. Good. You'll let me know.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And you have a good night and keep safe.
You too.
Okay, bye. So this was Chlorine Callaloo. That was Coach Jackie. We'd like to thank all our guests, Ann Poon Affat. We'd like to thank Jovan Hashrana for the reading of the news. And we had something else. ChillaxCin, ChillVaxin, encouraging the vaccination efforts. We had Cindy Ann right there with Adrian Raymond. Thank you very much, and tune in again